This is When You Were Everything, chapter We So Suck at Parties, pages 125 to 129. We so suck at parties. We're gonna go, right? Layla convinced me to go to Chinatown with her, so we could look for cheap costumey things to wear to Sloane's Halloween party. But I was still secretly considering skipping it. For one, it was Sloane. And two, Layla and I already had a Halloween tradition. But it was starting to feel like all the things we used to do together weren't as important to her as they once were. Where to first, I asked. And yes, Layla, God, we're going. But only because you promised to do our normal sleepover after. Layla clapped her hands and looped her arm through mine. Yay, okay, so there are great options nearly everywhere. She waved her hand like she was personally responsible for conjuring up or creating Chinatown, fully formed. Red Chinese characters were on the fronts of all the buildings, and street vendors peddled or sold everything from folding fans and silk scarves to jewelry, handbags, and hats. I still have that mask I got when I went to Sleep No More with my dad, I said, picturing its long beak and giant eye holes as we turned onto Canal Street. Autumn hadn't hit the city completely yet, and it was nearly 70 degrees. I knew old Chinese ladies were probably practicing Tai Chi in the nearby parks, and the thought of their slow movements and wide hats made me smile. No way, she said immediately. We're going for cute, not creepy. It's the first chorus party I've been invited to. We need to look good. We need to class it up. We navigated the crowded sidewalk side by side, pushing our way past tourists and experienced New Yorkers, haggling or negotiating over purses and buying fruit. Layla was wearing a pair of pale blue skinny jeans under a knee-length yellow dress with long sleeves, and she looked like a flower in the sea of darker fall colors everyone else was wearing. That included me, because I was in my typical black t-shirt and ripped jeans. I knew whatever costume she ended up with would be full of light, just like she was. I think we can find something good for you over there, she said, pointing across the street. We slipped into one of those pop-up costume stores that seem to appear and disappear all within the month of October, every fall. Luckily for you, I'm getting a vision, she said. She made a frame out of her thumbs and pointer fingers like she was zooming in on me with a camera. Maybe something Shakespearean. In the end, I found myself standing in my room wearing white satin gloves with a few drops of fake blood on them to represent the blood on Lady Macbeth's hands, a watch necklace for how often she checks the hour, and a lacy black dress I'd never normally have the guts to wear, that we found at a consignment shop. Layla helped me pin my braids into a bun, and my mask was thin and lacy too. Layla said all I needed was a little red lipstick to complete the look. I almost never feel that I look exactly as I want to, but with Layla's help, I was perfect. Deep down, though, I still didn't want to go to the party, no matter how pretty I felt in my costume. And when Layla started humming her chorus audition song to herself, it felt like a sign. A bad one. Though I used to love Layla's singing, now it just reminded me that there was this whole new section of her life that I wasn't a part of. She was a chorus girl, and I never would be. When Layla asked me to help with her hair, I lifted the flat iron and just tried to think about our sleepover. About how we would sit in the dark and watch a bunch of movies and creep up behind the couch to scare each other every time one of us went to the bathroom. I'd finally tell her about how my parents had been acting weird and distant with each other lately, using me to pass information between them like I was a carrier pigeon. I didn't want to tell her before the party because she'd want to help. She'd insist we go to my house and somehow fix it all right away. So do you think you'd really be able to convince your parents to let you come visit me in London this summer? Maybe, Layla said, since my aunt is just a train ride away. She grinned at me in the mirror. And then we'd go to Paris. She hopped up and grabbed my Parisian snow globe. "Think it's a sign that I was the person who gave you this?" she asked, sitting back down with the snow globe still in her hands. She shook it as I separated another chunk of her hair and said, "Obviously." "Do you still miss your grandmother as much as you used to when we were kids?" she asked out of nowhere. I bit my lip and watched her in the mirror. She looked up at me. "Yeah," I said. "I still think about her all the time, especially when my mom is overreacting about dumb stuff. Talking to your mom helps calm her down sometimes, but Gigi knew exactly what to say to make her chill. You know?" Layla nodded. "She flipped out on my dad the other day," I started, but then Layla's phone chimed. I saw what the text said, even though I wasn't actively trying to look. It was from Sloan. "What did Mason say about Friday?" In the mirror, Layla's reflection set down the snow globe and picked up the phone. I draped a handful of warm, straight hair over Layla's shoulder, and I swallowed hard against a sudden dryness at the back of my throat. I wanted to tell her about my parents' weirdness, but I also wanted to know why I didn't know anything about Friday. It was a strange feeling, not knowing something about my own best friend. I watched my own eyes in the mirror, afraid that if I looked into Layla's, all the softest parts of me would show, especially since we'd just been talking about Gigi. I wanted to make sure I didn't look like I was already hurt and trying to get to a truth that not so long ago would have been mine without having to ask. "You think Mason will be at the party tonight?" Layla put her phone face down without texting back and reached for her mascara. She stroked both her upper and lower fringes of lashes twice before she answered. "I think so," she said. She screwed the mascara closed, set it on my dresser, and stared at it. "I hope so." She turned around to face me, and hope bloomed in my belly like a flower. But all Layla said was, "Can you hand me those earrings?" Layla was going as a fairy. She was in a wispy long blue dress and had picked out a set of glittery, translucent wings from the pop-up Halloween shop. Her mask was silver, and so was all the jewelry she was wearing. I finished straightening her hair, and she showed me how to blot the lipstick I'd messily applied. Layla's parents were not fans of Halloween, and thought it was haram, forbidden in Islam. So she told them she was just sleeping over again like usual, not dressing up and going out. We couldn't post pictures anywhere that they might find, but we took a bunch anyway. Layla was quiet while we rode the train to Sloan's. I pointed out some of the craziest costumes, but even a baby dressed like a sushi roll didn't make her smile. I thought she might be worried about impressing the chorus girls again. "They already like you, Layla," I said. I wrapped my arm around her hip and pulled her closer to me as the train rocketed along the tracks. "They invited us to this party, didn't they? And you're in chorus now. You're like official." She squeezed me back, and though we swayed together as the train moved, it felt like there was more than just the fabric of our jackets between us. She was still quiet as we walked down the darkened streets in Sloan and Valeria's neighborhood. "You okay? We can go home," I said. "We can go to my apartment right now, and we can help my dad make his world-famous chocolate-covered popcorn." I started tugging her back toward the train station. No, I still want to go," she said finally. "I swear." "We so suck at parties," I muttered.